Call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much. Please be seated. We are opening the public budget hearing at this time, and so please let the record show that Ms. Jacobs is not present. The other four are present tonight. And so consideration of the 2025 budget. So we'll turn to Matt.
Yeah, so Form 3, after you guys had approved it, approved advertising in the August meeting, that was submitted to Gateway on August 23rd. The capital projects plan, bus replacements plan were uploaded onto Gateway as well, and they were also posted to the school website under the public notices section. Again, I included that same comparison chart in the board packet for you guys to see for the budget hearing here for the 2024 budget, the 2025 budget, some of the notes there that are off to the side as far as, again, operations fund, the MLGQ, we are capped at 4% growth, so again, that levy only grew 4%. And then the operations fund, or the debt service fund, we do have our AV now. We are working through finalizing, the bond that we're looking at that you guys have approved. Based on all of those things, we'll set to make sure that we hit our tax rate goal of at least dropping a penny. So this past year we were at $1.05, so we're looking at whether or not, where we want to set that rate is at $1.04 and that sort of things. We'll continue those conversations as we go through that. But all of that is built into this budget estimate so that when we do the budgets, everything is budgeted high. We can ratchet down so that it protects us against any sort of, things that come up out of the year that might cause us to have it higher. So we start high, can ratchet down, but you guys see some of those comparisons there. One of the things that I had added to this year that I hadn't done in the past was that I added what our current appropriation is, because we're always able to carry appropriation forward in education and operations, and that's something that allows us to, as we get through all the big ticket items at the end of a calendar year, we're able to look at that remaining appropriation and decide what we want to carry forward in education and operations. So all of that information is in there. The bus replacement plan, still staying with that same cycle of doing a couple of buses every year to keep our buses with 12 years or newer. And so we are right on track with that. We're in a really good place. And then the capital project plan just lists possible known items that exceed $10,000 that may be used from operations. It doesn't mean it has to come from operations. We could use GeoBond dollars, but essentially it's something that's still a requirement. And so we put together that plan and list out a bunch of things that are possible that could come up during that period of time. So we just continue to have those conversations and put those things on there. So with that, I'll take any questions, or I guess I don't need to. I guess it's up for public comment.
Okay. Is there any questions? No. Okay, so there are three separate items that we have to open public comments on. The first is the 2025 proposed budget. So I will now open the time for public comments on the 2025 proposed budget. Is there anyone who would like to speak on that? I hereby close the public comments on the 2025 proposed budget and will open for comments on the 2025 capital projects plan. Any comments? Seeing no one, I will close public comments on the 2025 capital projects plan and open comments for the 2025 bus replacement plan. Are there anyone from the public who would wish to comment on that?
I got one question. Our goal is $1 this year, right? We're dropping another penny.
Yeah, so I need to finalize that with you guys.
Is it finalized or not?
No,
Okay.
The period passed for the bond as far as for someone to do a qualifying petition. We're waiting on the certificate from the county to send that to us. Jacob McClellan from Bose has reached out for that. But before we go out and sell any bonds, we will revisit with you guys to get direction on finalizing that amount and the payback. And I'll talk about that again a little bit in my assistant superintendent's report, but we'll talk about that and have a clear understanding of what it is that you guys want, so that when they go out and do that, they're operating under the terms of what it is that you want
With
to.
a lower assessed
With a-
value.
with a lower-
We know our assessed value increased, but we're gonna go lower.
We
We're gonna-
want to
we're
let
gonna
our
be
rate
safe.
fall.
Got it,
Yes.
got it.
Yeah.
Seeing no one for public comments, I will close public comments on the 2025 bus replacement plan, and I will adjourn the public budget hearing. And so now I will open the regular meeting for September 2024 of the Richland Bean Blossom Community School Corporation. And we have done the pledge, and the roll call is consistent with the previous. Are there any visitor comments? Okay, quiet evening. All right, we'll jump right into the Mustang moment. Dr. Sanders.
Right. So we have a very talented staff, as I'm sure you know, in many areas across the corporation. And one of our counselors at the junior high school, Brittany Straw, came to me, I don't know, a few years ago and asked about the possibility of having a therapy dog. And so I asked Brittany to do the research and present me with the plan and all the information I would need, and she did really well. You know, we've all been there some time when we had a decision to make whether to allow something, and when somebody comes to us and they've really done their homework, they're really committed, they're passionate about it, it doesn't take long to say yes. And now that we're a couple years into it, Brittany was right. And so I asked her to come and share with the board tonight about therapy dogs, and she brought Barley, and he's a therapy dog at Edgewood Junior High School. And I've been up there. In fact, whenever we walk through the office and we go by Brittany's office, we all stop and say hello to Barley. So Barley is an attraction to not only students but to adults also. So Brittany, if you could come forward and speak a little bit, that'd be great.
Hello, everybody. It is so nice to be in front of you guys today. I feel like several years ago, whenever I brought this idea up, in a joking way, of course, because I didn't know if it was going to go well. Whenever I brought it up at that point in time, I really didn't know what to expect. I just knew what I hoped to envision. So being here today, I was thrilled to get Dr. Sanders' email, because I feel like this is just one of those things that helps me to know that we're on the right path, and this is working as we had hoped. So as Dr. Sanders said, I am Brittany Straw, and I'm a school counselor at the junior high school. This is my companion, Barley May Straw, and she is a therapy dog over at the junior high. She is almost 2. She's a few weeks now away from being 2, and she is a mini Bernedoodle who apparently has a lot to say right now. Sorry. She wants to talk with us. So her job and her role at the junior high is really to enhance our students' experience and to improve our school culture. And so far, that has been one of the greatest experiences of mine, is to see those things happening in our building. Whenever we brought this idea up to our administration a few years ago, you know, I can sit there and say all the wonderful things of all of the research and stuff that I could bring to the table to Jen Anderson, to John Siglin, and I could just cross my fingers and hope that it actually happens. Well, we're here today and we actually see that. So what I wanted to share with you is that Barley is quite literally the most popular student services provider at the junior high. So whenever I was looking through our student sign-ups, so these are sign-ups that students like advocate for themselves, let us know when they have a want or a need, they sign up for us electronically. And as of Friday, Barley had 57 individual sign-ups from students 6 to 8, and we are still working our way through that, because of course we see a lot of students for a lot of different reasons. But also in my going through and looking at the data that I have been collecting, One really great thing that I did not expect was that we had 13 faculty members that also utilized Barley for their own emotional regulation for some point in the day. And so that was something that just even more so, just lights my passion about doing these things. So the things that we're doing in the junior high, I want to share with you, because it started off our very first project. We partnered with a teacher that's no longer at the junior high, Taylor Erickson, and she allowed her students to do a science fair project on therapy dogs and how they help people. More specifically with their blood pressure and their reported wellness after the interaction with the pet-assisted interactions. So that was so much fun. We had many people coming through the doors, parents, students, teachers. Dr. Sanders was there, and it was a thrill. And their data showed exactly what we expected, is in majority of the interactions, the blood pressure of the people that had interacted with Barley had come down and their mood had remarkably changed within their, I think at that time it was a 15-minute duration of time where they got to play, give her treats, whatever the case may be. From there, we have gone on to do many different things, some of them trial and error, but all of them so far have been wonderful. Barley has been a part of our geometry class. They use their mathematical concepts to build her an agility course, and so they would have sessions with Barley, see how fast she can run, how tall she is, you know, what could we expect for her to jump and how high, and what would that look like to manipulate the contraptions that they were building. And that class built the most awesome agility course that we are hoping to be able to have up situationally here soon for us to use during regulation break, which I'll talk about in a minute, and during some flex sessions. So at the junior high, we also offer regulation where students kind of get their needs met. So we have Barley outside in a particular place, and her interactions throughout the school day, or sorry, during that 15 minutes of time, we will have dozens and dozens of touch points with this dog, and it is amazing because she will sit in this place, she'll roll over on her belly, the kids just love it. And so as I have these interactions, again, I go back to the data to see, like, you know, this looks great from my perspective. You know, what are the kids really thinking? What are they feeling? And so whenever I was, you know, asking questions and getting feedback about their interactions at regulation break, for instance, I had students that were saying, like, 86% of the students that I was talking to, which was ended up being about 90 kids in total, that they loved having Barley in the building. 91% said that she improved her mood just by seeing her out at regulation break. 52% reported the reduced stress, and 45 of them said that they felt loved once they walked away from Barley's interaction. And so those kind of interactions continue, and we host flex sessions, and that is a time where students can sign up, and we allow for student-led training so that they can have a sense of community and a stake in, like, her training and how she carries herself, how the students carry themselves. And those are one of the most popular flex sessions. They max out every single time, and then I have everybody asking, well, can you make an exception? Can we put these extra 20 kids in there? And so it's been really great because students will then see her in the hallway and they know how to ask her to sit, they know how to interact with her, they know her expectations. You know, she gets really excited and she's jumping, you know, they know exactly what to do, and it has been great. They really have a stake in this therapy dog program because they feel very much a part of it. So just other things, just really short before I close, is she has had some really great academic interactions as well. She is a great tool, especially for struggling readers. I've had her read with some of our middle school students that maybe are not on grade level. They don't share or interact in the classroom often because of the judgment that comes around reading aloud. And so working on those skills with Barley is in such a low stakes situation. And so we've had so many students that will work one-on-one, and the next thing you know, the teacher's like, hey, has so-and-so been in, working with you, keeping up with Barley? Yes, why? Oh my gosh, they read today. They had confidence today. Can I say it's a direct correlation to our work? No. But I can say that there was probably something about that interaction that allowed the student to build that confidence. She also works with our English language learners about learning our language. And so we had a student recently that did not speak any English at all come in, and his job with Barley was to learn different commands like sit and stay and walk, you know, and that helped him to also grasp the situation so that when he was in the classroom, we could give him some basic commands. And that went really well. So he joined us on Flex, he was with us during regulation, and it was wonderful. She also has a after-school club called the Cuddly Cult. If anybody is interested in ever stopping by, we are pen pals with other therapy dogs around the nation. And so we pass around trading cards, and we interact with other classrooms. The kids love when they get a classroom of like third graders and they're working on the literacy skills and things like that, and we write back all things about Barley. And it's just a really fun exchange. I could go on and on. I literally have like 15 slides I was going to present to you today that just had these amazing interactions, but I think my time is probably close to end. So I want you to know that I am so thankful for the opportunity to do this. And I know that she's pretty occupied right now with something, but she is too, and she gets so much love. And I wanted to see if you guys had any questions for me about how our program works, or what you envision, or any concerns that you might have that I could answer for you.
When's the after-school club?
It's called the Cuddly Cult Club.
When does it meet?
Oh, this year we haven't set a date yet. Last year we met on Tuesdays after school, and we would start in the conference room and generally end up playing in the multi-purpose room. Yeah. She also has Instagram if anybody wants to follow.
That's what I was getting ready to say. Have a social media presence, yeah.
Yes, and the students love it because when they have interactions with her, they very often are taking pictures, or if we're doing something as a school, I like to really have that as a way to remind students about different things that are coming up, you know, about like those days, especially as the weather changes and seasonal depression, things like that start happening, just giving them tips and tricks and using Barley as a really cute, like fun face to be able to be out there and remind students of all these things and how wonderful they are. And so if you want to follow that, it is the Cuddly Cult on Instagram. And you can see everything that the junior high is up to. And you'll even see Barley in like our meetings and all the places that she makes an appearance.
Does Barley have any special training to be a therapy dog, or?
Yes, so we got Barley as with the intention of her being a therapy dog. So we got her from a breeder that was a retired veterinarian and trainer. So from the time that Barley was able to interact, she started the socialization very, very early to help set the stage for where we are today. Once we brought her home, about 8-9 weeks of age, we enrolled her in Mad for My Dog down here. And we took the puppy preschool, the therapy prep, did all of the classes. And next month, here in just a few weeks, she will have her certified exam. We fully anticipate that she will pass. She's already done her benchmark and she got Desirable Plus. So as we know that she really is meant to be a therapy dog. So it's wonderful.
So are you her owner?
That's what I was trying to, where does she sleep at?
She sleeps with me.
I was thinking teacher's lounge.
Yeah,
Best in the morning.
she is mine. We purchased her, did all of her training, all those things out of our own, just personal, nothing school-wise or school-related. She really is just volunteering her service here at the junior high.
Can you hold Barley up so we can
Yeah, I get a picture.
see the on camera?
She probably wanted that the whole time. She's not used to not being the center of attention.
So there is a purpose to all this. You know, we want to, at school, we're always trying to create an environment where students are going to be able to learn. And we know by research that when
when they're focused on things that are going on in their lives, they're stressed out about something going on at home or something going on at school, that learning can take a back seat because they're focused on other things. And so Barley helps to, like Brittany said, regulate. In other words, get that student focused again on learning and not so focused on their struggles. And so Barley plays a very important role at Edgewood Junior High School. Kevin Gill at EIS sometimes will bring his therapy dog into the classroom. So this is something I think you'll see more and more. Now, we don't want to have a therapy dog in every classroom, so we will monitor that and make sure it's done right, that it's a trained therapy dog, that the owner of the dog is passionate and committed to making this work. And so we'll take each situation separately, but I just very thankful for Brittany and what she's done, and just wanted her to come and be recognized by the board tonight.
I'm not saying that Barley ever would, but if Barley would happen to bite one of our students, does our insurance cover that okay, or?
Yes.
Yes, that was,
And I do also carry extra insurance on her, and she's covered under my own personal liability that I have for counseling, because I'm also a licensed mental health counselor outside of here. And so I have used that credentialing to also cover me for our BB schools. So if anything were to happen, I called whenever we started to kind of toy with this idea, and they said yes, if she is at work with me and something happens with her at work, she is covered under me, because at that time I didn't know. And then Dr. Sanders let me know that she would likely be covered.
Well, she's definitely a cute doggy.
Yeah, she is. She just likes all the attention. So,
Yeah.
any other questions?
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brittany.
It's really awesome to hear about how it really is helping our students, and that's awesome. So perfect. All righty. Since nothing else can compare to that, we'll just go ahead. Next, the consent agenda. We have approval of minutes from the August 19th, 2024 regular board meeting. We have financial. We have the treasurer's report for August of 2024. And Mr. Donald, the claims, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gross wages on August 2nd, 2024, $598,963.03. Gross wages on August 16th, 2024, $696,507.13. For gross wages on August the 30th, 2024, $805,063.62, for a total of $2,100,533.78. Claims prepays on 8/1/24 through 8/31/24, $1,247,217.64. For claims regular vouchers, 9/25/2024, $1,062,413.84, for a total of $2,609,631.48, for a grand total of $4,710,165.26.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have personnel, resignations, retirements, non-renewals, leaves, and terminations, C1 through 34, and personnel appointment and transfers, D1 through 52. We also have two great donations. One is $267.76 from Donors Choose, and that was for Stephanie Truax's classroom for supplies. And there were also 10 various size of canvas tarps valued at approximately $3,120 from the Gosport Manufacturing that was donated to the high school. There are 2 out-of-state and overnight field trips. The Edgewood High School cross country is having an overnight trip to Fort Wayne for the New Haven Invitational, and the high school FFA will go to Indianapolis for the Indiana for National Convention. So, Dr. Zander, is there anything you wanted to add about those?
A little bit, yes. Zach Evans, the cross-country coach, in his proposal for this overnight trip, cited that the importance of going overnight, going the night before, is that his athletes would not have to get up early in the morning, drive to Fort Wayne, that they'd be rested and perform better by going and making it overnighter, so that makes complete sense. And then this is an annual request from the FFA to attend the National FFA Convention in Indianapolis. And we want to support Taylor Ferguson and her students who are they're very active and they benefit quite a bit from this convention. So recommend your approval on both of those field trips.
I have heard a lot of wonderful things about the FFA trip, so that's awesome to hear. Okay, so that is our consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, comments?
Well, that's multiple years, I think they've been going to New Haven also for that cross country. It's a major invitation.
It's a major event,
It is.
state and national recognition. So I think anything we can do to help the students out is a good thing. So.
And
The FFA convention in Indy, there's blue FFA jackets all over the place that weekend. So it's kind of cool.
my daughter and son-in-law, while he was in pharmacy school, lived in Fort Wayne, and that is a drive.
It is, yeah.
It definitely is a drive, so. Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have a supplemental personnel report, and so we'll turn that over to Mr. Irwin.
Yeah, so this is in compliance with the Indiana code that started last July 1st. It's 2026-511.2. I sent you guys the information with the board packet prior to the meetings that you guys could review everything. So you guys should have everything that you need. If you have any other questions, I can answer that. But this is something that we've had to go through since that new law came into play. So with that, just asking for your guys' approval of Mr. Grubal, who would be an 8th grade assistant football coach.
Is there a motion?
I'd move approval for
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Thanks for the report.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Now, we will open the public hearing on the amendment to the superintendent's contract, and I will ask Christine Bartlett to kind of give us an overview of the changes.
Just 2 changes with this amendment. One, we extended the contract for an additional year, so now the contract will terminate June 30th of 2026. And then effective July 1, 2024, so retroactive, the annual salary will be $146,500. And there were no other changes to the contract other than those 2.
I will now open the public hearing for public comments on the superintendent's amendment to the superintendent's contract. Are there anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none, I will thereby close the public hearing on the amendment to the superintendent's contract and move on to consider the approval of the amendment to the superintendent contract. Do we have a motion?
I'd move to approve the amendment to the superintendent's contract.
I'll second.
Moved, seconded. Any comments, discussion?
Just like to thank Jerry for all he does for us. It's just amazing what he gets done, and his personality is wonderful, and, you know, I just couldn't ask for a better superintendent.
Yeah. And I hear from a lot of people in the school corporation and the community that he's the best superintendent around. So best one we've ever had, and I don't know a lot of them we've had, so I can't say, but I say that he is excellent for our school corporation. Our school corporation has gone really far under his guidance, so we really appreciate you. So, anything further? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you very much, especially for the kind words.
Okay, now we're going to get a construction update, and so Mr. Irwin, will you lead us into that, please?
Yeah, so I got Martin Truesdale here from Skillman Corporation. He's the project manager for our projects that are here going on. Martin's going to come up, and I'm going to pull up a presentation that he's going to go through with you guys. One of the things that is different, hopefully, about this time around with these rounds of projects and having Skillman involved is just the everyday attention to detail that they're able to give to our projects, and hopefully the continued success in the way that these projects unfold, and not finding, there's always little hills to climb as you go through construction, and they've done a great job so far through these processes of helping us navigate some of those things that come up, and to also to make sure that things turn out the way we want them to turn out. So I have the presentation here, and I'll let him go through this. The thing that we talked about was that we want Skillman to come and do this every other month, so that you guys can continue to get these updates. I know you guys have access to Autodesk and Ecom, which has a bunch of information on there, but I also think this is a great way for the public to stay informed about the progress of our projects, which is another great feature of this. So with that, I'll turn that over to Martin and let him talk about that. I'll also, let me get these pulled up on the other two so other people can see them. Sorry, Martin. Okay, take it away, Martin.
This is our September update, and it's kind of like what I like to do for a living, so it's kind of my outlook on it. It's about to get really fun. What you're going to see tonight is getting the ground prepared, getting the areas prepared, and then we're going to start swinging steel in about a week. So we might as well start with the first slide. Start with Early Childhood Center. We've got about a 17-month schedule on it. The goal is to be, and that goes back to the time we gave notice to proceed to the contractors. And the goal is to be in for the fall of '25. Right now, and Matt, you might click through. Right now, this is about a week old, but right now that's what you're going to see. There's nothing out of the ground, but the dirt's, you got a big pile of topsoil on the left hand of the screen, and you're starting to see the building footings, which is kind of that W shape going in. I was out there just before we came in, or I came in for this, and they're going to pour, hopefully, barring any rain, the last of the footings tomorrow. We also have to pour column bases. We've got it set up in two pieces. Matt, you might click in. So right now we've got the site preparation done. We've got an access road. It's all fenced off, and we've been working with the primary school on where that fence needs to go, and playground, all that type of thing. That big pile of dirt was that stockpiled topsoil. As we go through, we have a civil engineering firm come in and test. So the building pad where the concrete is going to go, the building pad's been prepared and tested by Patriot Engineering, so we know that it's solid, ready to go. And as they pour the footings, they do two things. They check the bottom of the footing, make sure it has bearing capacity, and then they take what you call cores of the concrete, which is a coffee can. I guess they still have coffee cans. Coffee can size core, and they'll take 5, I think, on each pour, and that all gets tested by smashing them. And that's where we are now. All the cores are passed to date, so we're moving forward. One thing that slowed us down a little bit, but frankly we're right on schedule, was the gas line. The local gas utility did not quite see the same urgency as we did in getting their utility in, but we were able to start on the west side and work our way east, and by the time we got to the east side, the gas line had been relocated. Again, this is a week ago when I put this together. The building footings have been laid out, and here it says we began excavating and pouring footings. And as I said, as of tomorrow, the last footing ought to be poured. So we have the footings, and then we have the column bases. So the footings are all poured, and then they'll go back and pour the column bases. And you could click. So that's our access road onto the site. That trailer in the background is the Skillman job trailer. Site's all contoured. They roll the building pad to make sure it's good and tight, and then test it. And the footings and rebar, if you went out there tonight, that's what the far east end would look like, and they're supposed to pour it tomorrow. Concrete has a whole lot of compression strength. It doesn't have any bending strength, so it takes all that rebar to give it the bending strength. What you're seeing there in the left is the huge amount of rebar that goes into a column base, and then on the right are the column bases. Like I said, this to me is when it gets fun. The site contractor, who's done a wonderful job, EMB Paving, will continue site utilities, the stone base. The parking lot on the south side will get 8 inches of compacted stone, and then I think it's 3.5 inches of asphalt and 2 inches of topper, something like that. What we did was we put the stone down and got it compacted. That will keep it from degrading over the winter, and it also creates a place for instance, next week when the steel contractor comes in, what they call it is shaking it out. They can use that space to unload and distribute their steel before they start stacking it up on the building. Next 30 days, footings are done. Column pads will be done in the next several days. And we will start and complete the steel erection out there. The steel's really 2 pieces. There's the erection, and that's what I call a wide flange, what you'd call an I-beam or an I-column. The structural steel will go up. That should go up pretty quickly. And then it takes a little while. There's a metal deck, and it all has to be welded to the structure. That'll happen. Once the steel deck, we're doing it in 2 areas, the east side and the west side. The west side is B, that's where we're starting. Once that steel deck is welded on, it's going to be safe to work underneath it, and they'll begin the underground mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. So in the next 30 days, that's about when that mechanical, electrical, plumbing will start. And they'll dig it all in, that all has to be in, and then we can pour a slab. That's where we are. Again, it's going to be pretty interesting. If anybody wants to do drive-bys, starting on the 7th, they'll be erecting the steel. So if you drive out there today and look at it from the road, nothing. 3 weeks from now, you drive by, look at it from the road, you're going to see a steel superstructure. On schedule, the high school, we've got several different components of the high school. What we're working on right now is the activity center, and that's a picture of the activity center. That is probably 2 weeks old. That's the building pad prepped. You can see all the fencing that's up. Right now, if you went out there and looked at it now, kind of around the periphery, you'd see a big wide trench full of concrete. That's the footings for the the concrete panel construction. Tilt-up's an old term, but the concrete panels will come in on a truck. I believe they're 12 foot wide, and usually they're about 28 feet tall, something like that. So they're big, heavy panels. That will start on the 14th, and you will be shocked at how fast it looks like a building. Within 2 weeks, it'll look like a building. Matt, you might flip. So I guess I got ahead of myself.
Catch up there, there you go.
The fencing's all up. We did have to add a water main that the town of Ellettsville came to us with. And again, I really give accolades to our earthwork contractor. They jumped in and got that done, extra work. Underground detention system, if you had driven by 4 weeks ago, you would have seen the north end of the parking lot all dug up. So rather than have a detention pond, your detention is underground, and it's actually under the pavement. That's installed. The parking at the building footprint's demoed, and that building pad's in and tested also, so it's ready to go. The new parking lot at football's done. I said we tested the building pad. And when we got into, there's an existing storm line that was supposed to come out, and we cameraed it, which literally we want to run a camera down the length, just to make sure there weren't any laterals coming out of the building. There weren't any shown on the as-built drawings that you all had, but when we ran the camera down, we had a lateral. So outside of the swimming pool area, a roof drain came down and into the site. So we had to take care of that by running it out and running it to the south to the nearest storm structure. So that, I think they finished today. It looked like they were finishing it up today. And again, kind of give accolades to our general contractor because they jumped in and got that done. So what you're seeing on the left-hand side, that's your underground detention system. And on the right-hand side is the building pad ready to go. There's your new football parking lot. And there they are tearing out the asphalt, getting the building pad ready. That's the far west wall footings, and again, you see all the rebar in there. And that's actually been poured at this point. So the next 30 days, we'll complete the storm drains, complete the building footprints. What you will see and to be aware of, and Matt, I think you've made all your people aware that this is going to happen, is when we come in and start setting the wall panels, that's a piece of concrete that thick by 12 feet by close to 30 feet tall. They're a little bit heavy. And what they'll come in and they'll set it up and they'll run a brace off to the ground. But just if we have a tornado, extraordinary circumstance, if that would fall, we don't want anybody underneath it. So what we'll be doing is moving the fences out, and the buses will start going through, they'll come around, go into what I'm calling the football parking lot, and out, so it's going to totally change your circulation. Well, significantly change your circulation. But Matt, I think the transportation people are all aware of it. Again, the panels will go up in a couple weeks, but then the next thing we have to do is you'll have the panel, we'll bring the steel in. The steel roof structure has to tie those panels all together. And that'll actually take longer than putting the panels up. So once the panels are tied together, they can take the struts out. Once the struts are out, then we can give you your circulation back. But from the 14th of October, it's going to be Thanksgiving by the time we're able to do that. I'm sorry?
The fall zone will be eliminated by December?
The fall zone will be eliminated
It'd be
when
safe.
we get the roof on. Yeah, I want to say it's around Thanksgiving.
Okay, all right.
So the timeline for all of those pattern changes has been in that shared document that we created for staff dating back to May. And then it has the actual footprint pattern that people can see the visual of what that looks like. And then Dr. Sanders and I will be sending out some reminder communication to staff and the community to make them aware of the upcoming changes of traffic circulation around the high school so that they can plan accordingly. I'm sure that it will cause a few days of being very patient with how it takes people to adjust to some of the new coordination of that. But, it's necessary to make sure that everyone's safe as the construction, obviously, like you said, of the panels goes on.
Barley go car to car.
There we go. Calm people down, it might be necessary, yeah.
Renovations, sir.
Cause a little bit of disruption in that they are very economical for a building like this, and it's a really good way to construct this type of facility.
Yeah, and frankly, even if we were doing a steel structure, when we're putting that steel structure up, you'd still have to deal with the fall zone.
Right.
So, like I said, we're doing a couple things at the high school right now. We're doing the new activity center, and we're also doing renovations. Phase 0, what we're calling Phase 0 was the office renovations and the media center. That's been done and occupied. It was ready for the start of school. Phase 1, we came in and added, our original Phase 1 was 5 classrooms. Arnold asked that we take a look at some of the rooms had 9-by-9 tiles, which required abatement. And he wanted to get all the abatement done over the summer, which we were able to do. And actually, we're pretty far ahead of ourselves there. We got the abatement done, we got those classrooms painted, flooring done and turned over. But what will happen is, as we get into the regular phasing, the casework will show up. That's the demo at the high school administration, demo in the media center, that's your concrete floors, demo in a classroom, starting to do the wall paint in the classrooms. And then that's your administration area as it looks today. So as we move into the next 30 days, we're getting ready to start to demo another, it's either 5 or 6 classrooms, begin new finishes and casework. As we get into the areas, per the phasing, we will add casework to those ones that we did the abatement in. Edgewood Primary School, we've got the demolition done. Again, these pictures are a couple weeks old when I put the slide presentation together. Excuse me. And again, that's demo and wall prep. Primary school, the complete phase 1 classrooms with the goal of October 17th. They're installing the casework right now, so we should make that easily. And what they do is tomorrow, I think, we had the phase 1 blocked off so students couldn't get into it with temporary walls, and we'll move those temporary walls to phase 2 and block that off. The temporary walls, the intent is to keep our contractors inside the temporary walls as much as possible to minimize distraction and minimize any interaction with the students or staff. Intermediate school, they're going to have a fun day tomorrow. Tomorrow they're going to move 6 classrooms. And they're going to go after it.
It worked out real well because fourth grade's on a field trip anyway, so we're just gonna do it while they're gone.
So, and I think you're moving the teachers into the permanent classrooms for the most part. Yeah. So that's what the intermediate school looked like a week ago. And we did punch list.
So, yeah,
And I thought it looked pretty good.
it did.
So the next 30 days at the intermediate school, again, they'll put those temporary construction partition walls up and begin demolition in the next phase.
Thank you, Martin.
Any questions?
I walk the dog around school regularly, and I can look in where the rooms that were just done in the intermediate, and we were watching the casework going up, and it moved fast.
It was interesting today because that temporary wall is down, so you can
Yeah,
stand at the 2 corridors and you can see the new here and the existing here, and it's like, that looks really different.
it does, it looks good. And then I also would walk around to the west end of the primary, and so I could see the construction at the new preschool. That's moving. I mean, from the road, you can't see much, but if you get back there, you can see there's a lot of work been done,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, you can't see anything from the road.
No,
On the 7th, you'll start seeing stuff on the
that'd be fun.
Every 2 weeks, there's a construction meeting.
There is.
And brings together all the contractors that are busy during that time period to be on site. And the architects and Skillman, and those are great discussions. They go through every part of what's going on, what's next, making sure everybody pays attention to lead times to get materials here when they need to be here, which is a big problem that we've had in the past. So I'm just really impressed at how well those meetings go. I've been attending the last couple, and it's just, they go really well, and it's just great to get everybody in the room to sort anything out that may be popping up. And the things that popped up that could have been delays were handled so efficiently that we're still on schedule. And so I appreciate that work from you and all the contractors in keeping things moving really well. I am, this is the best building projects I've seen here, as far as how they're being managed. It's just, I just really appreciate it. It's really good to see.
Well, Troy and Tanisha kind of keep me out of trouble, so
Yeah.
I just keep moving.
I appreciate one of the things that caught me at that last meeting was you guys stopped and let the preschool director talk about her concerns up, because she's right next to that. it's good to hear all that, because you guys need to know that stuff, because she's in the weeds every day with it.
Oh, yeah.
So that was good to hear her thoughts on the safety of the kids and so forth.
Well, and that's a really good example, because I can look at a set of drawings and know what's going on. But she can't do that, so, you know, to get her and then go out to the site and say, here's what's gonna happen. That's the only way she's gonna understand.
Yeah, yeah. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. I'll excuse myself.
Thank you. Okay, that was very informational, appreciate that. Mr. Irwin, your Assistant Superintendent report, please.
Yeah, so education fund, I think one of the biggest things to point you to is just some adjustments and assumptions that I've made, one of those being in ADM. ADM is, accountant day is next week, so we feel pretty solid about our number. We continue to track that every week and those sorts of things. And so I typically wait as long as possible to start to reflect that in the cash flows and forecasting. And so right now, what we're projecting is somewhere around a 30 student increase from our spring ADM, which is great. And so one of the other big things that was reflected in that is the interest that we're earning on cash in the bank and the utilization of Trusted Indiana and those money market accounts has been phenomenal. I think some of that will probably drop quite a bit with the feds dropping the rates 50 basis points. So I don't typically carry that forward as aggressive as you might think, but in the last year and a half, you know, that's been a big win for us as far as continuing to help us in that area. Debbie does a great job of moving funds back and forth there so that we're earning on that money that's sitting there in the bank, and so that is something that I appreciate her efforts in that, because she does pay very close attention to it for us. The other part of that, again, is, you know, I build those assumptions in. We're starting to actively work on proposed increases and things that we want to do with staff pay and those sorts of things. We've started bargaining with RBBEA. We actually had our first meeting last night, and we're continuing to have those conversations and work through. And so we're excited to see what we can get accomplished here in the next couple of weeks. And so everything's looking good there in the education fund right now. Debt service fund. Again, no receipts or expenditures in the fund during August. That's expected. Started working on the 2025 tax anticipation warrant. The application for that, I'll bring forth the stuff that I need to ask for your permission to actually go through with it. But they've sent out I've sent the memo to them saying, hey, we're interested in this. And again, that's something we do every year. It's also a part of the budget process when we go through as far as the resolutions and the things that you guys will need to approve during our October meeting, that where you're giving me that permission to go for it. And again, that's used to help us with cash flow and advances, with tax draws from our debt payments. A lot of them fall January and July, which is a little bit different. And so the way that rolls, we're fronting some of that money. So it just helps us with cash flow purposes. And again, that's part of the budget process. So just wanted to let you guys know I'm actively starting that application. But again, I'll bring forth the proper approvals for you guys to say yes or no to that here in the very near future. Operations fund. Projections stayed very close. Didn't make a whole lot of changes to this. It looks really similar to what you saw last month. We're still in a good place there. And again, with the staff, proposed staff increases that we hope to bring to you here in the next month or two, that will be reflective of kind of where we sit in that fund. Obviously, there's a good portion of our staff that is funded through the operations fund as well. So that will be reflective in there, and that's something that we take into account when we look at all of that stuff. So a couple other side items to make you aware of as it relates to some of these things. Our qualifying petition date for someone for our bond process was the 23rd. Jacobs reached out to the auditor's office for them to provide certificate that we've had no qualifying petitions. To the best of our knowledge, we know of none at this point, so we're just waiting on that certificate. We'll again go back and talk with Stiefel about the timing of when we would sell those bonds, and then the parameters of what the payback would look like and all of those things, so that you guys can give us direction and them direction of what you want that to be as it relates to how it affects our budget and our levies. So we'll recircle the wagons again on that before we ever press go on anything, so that you guys feel comfortable with where we're at and what we're doing. Couple of quick notes on other construction type stuff. HVAC, we had those two big HVAC contracts. One of those contracts is getting ready to close up here very soon. That's the complete redo of the HVAC system at our auxiliary building here out on 46. HFI was the contractor on that. We have had punch list on that job last week. And so they're actively working on finishing up punch list on that, and then some of the touch-ups to finishing up the controls, and then the graphics and back-end stuff that goes on there for us to manage the controls of that system. So that one's almost done. And then the other one is our contract with Heflin, which is for a bunch of HVAC work that's happening at the elementary schools and the high school. A lot of that work has been completed. Big part of that project is about to happen here in the very near future, and that is the chillers. So 2 new chillers going on Edgewood High School, and then 1 more new chiller, which would be the second new one for the elementary campus. So we did a new one a couple years back. There's 2 big ones that run that entire elementary campus. This is the second one that powers that. And so the goal, as long as ship date stays the same, is that those would happen during winter break. And so they're looking to get those done here soon. We have to make sure that we wait until we know that there is no need for cooling, because we don't want to take chillers down, pull them off, and all of a sudden it gets hot again, and then we've got ourselves a big mess. So we are waiting for the appropriate timing to make sure that we're safe on the timing of that. And also we know for sure when the shipment of those come out, so that we know that they're going to be on time, and we can lay foot to plan with when those chillers will be installed. So with that, I'll take any questions for my assistant superintendent's report.
Any questions?
The bonds will not have to be rated this time?
No. So they did an
We don't have to
analysis
pay
of whether or
that.
not if it was worth it for us to get it rated, as far as the difference that it might make in the possible interest rate that you would receive on that. And it would not be beneficial for us to do that. The cost that you would incur just to get it rated with S&P outweighs whether or not we would see that benefit when we would actually go out to sell the bond. So it doesn't make sense to rate this. And that's actually pretty typical with what you've seen with our GO bonds in the past on those smaller bonds. It doesn't usually make sense to go out and get those rated and incur those expenses that you need to in order to do that. So
That money saved will go back into our coffers.
it's money that's not incurred for cost of issuance. So it helps us in that way, yeah.
All right, nothing further. We'll move on to consideration to approve the commercial services invoice. Sterling?
Yeah, so this one dates back. We've been working on this one for a little while. We had our last audit with SBOA dating back to July, for the period of July 1, 2020 to June 30th, 2022. That kind of goes back to the origination of COVID and some of the changes that they made with what was eligible to be spent in that. One of those being HVAC. We paid for some HVAC out of ESSER. That was a part of an original contract. We deducted it from that contract and then got it approved to pay through ESSER. There was some back-end pieces of that as far as paying prevailing wage that they said that it still needs to be paid the prevailing wage, even though for the entirety of the contract, even though we had deducted it from the contract. That was not something they said we needed to do after the audit, but the federal government came in afterwards and said, hey, we're enforcing this. So we worked through this with Christine, the Department of Labor, the Department of Education, and all those things. They set us a corrective action. We worked with Commercial Services, who was the contractor on that HVAC contract. They went back and had to recount every hour of labor that happened on that contract and apply the correct prevailing wage to it. And then they sent us the invoice for that. They'll provide us the necessary previous wage paid, new corrected wage paid to those people per that contract. We'll send that off to the DOE, which would satisfy their requirement, and it's being paid for through ESSER funds, which is where it would have been paid for in the first place. We made adjustments to the way we were planning to spend ESSER funds when we got notification of this. We've worked through this as much as we can to try to figure out how to ease the burden of that, but again, it's all gonna slide into ESSER. We've kept that communication. They've since done an audit on us again on future HVAC stuff or other contracts within ESSER. And I put that in the board packet that shows that they said what we are doing currently satisfies all requirements, and they're happy with that. No further action needed. So just to rest assured that you guys know that based on that audit, we did make the correct changes, but they still came back and wanted us to make changes to the contract from previous. So that's what this invoice reflects. It would be paid for from our ESSER $3. The value of that is $224,487.91. And that, again, is what it's attributed to. So you guys have a bunch of that back-end information, and then we'll send that off to the DOE. With that, I'll take any questions on it.
So the DOE is, the SBOA is enforcing the federal government?
SBOA does the audit. They do the
Correct.
finding of it. The DOE is the one that sends down the enforcement of it. So the federal government sent it down to the Indiana Department of Education. Department of Education sent us the enforcement of the corrective action and what they wanted us to do to satisfy, which came in February of this year, which was well after the audit, which there's a lot of frustrations with that
Yeah.
because we made plans with dollars based on the guidance that they gave at the time and move forward. And so we did make adjustments to it to make it work. And again, we have been able to make it work, so we've made adjustments to that. And again, that is, I guess, the silver lining of it, but that is who the enforcement comes from. Ultimately, the enforcement comes from the federal government because they're federal funds.
And there's no way to appeal because we did it.
We pushed
did,
back.
We weren't using the whole amount.
We pushed back in all of the areas that we felt like we could push back on. This is something I've talked through with Christine multiple times, the language, some of the different pieces, sent them different documentation of the change orders, the deducts from the contracts, and all of those things. And so they've said, here, this is the way that you have to proceed with it. And so that is the way that we have proceeded.
Yeah, I'm not, I mean, I know we have to vote to pay it, but it doesn't seem like everybody's playing right in the sandbox here.
No.
It really doesn't. I mean, that's a big hit.
It is.
That's a big hit, but we were told, we did it right to begin with, we were told, correct?
And so the prevailing wage that it's applied to is based on at when the contract is signed, so it's not applied at today's prevailing wage. Obviously, that changes over time. So again, in their eyes, that prevailing wage would have had been paid had that contract been pulled out and pushed out that way. Now, it was not known that it would apply to the whole contract. So the way that they've explained that is you spend any federal money on a contract, on construction, then that prevailing wage applies to the entirety of the contract, regardless of whether or not you paid for all of it with federal dollars. It does not matter.
That's.
And Christine,
our legal
correct me if
counsel,
I'm wrong
you
on
have
any of that.
completely verified all that,
Yeah.
because it
we-
doesn't smell right to me.
Well, we looked into it. I think the issue was we would have had to have totally broken that out as its own distinct project, and it could not have been combined in any way with anything else. And I did look into it. It did not look like there was any path forward for appealing it, unfortunately.
All right.
But we did have, I mean, Matt was, you know how Matt operates.
I know.
He crosses his Ts and dots his Is. And so the people that are guiding us on how to spend these funds properly gave approval for that. And then down the
Unknowingly,
road.
they misrepresented their, correct, they unknowingly, they
Well,
didn't, they gave us the blessing.
And to be, you know, just my experience with the state, oftentimes, they are also trying to interpret what the federal government is saying. And so I think there was honest intention and a good effort to interpret things the way they did, but in the end, the federal government said otherwise.
And then the second letter we got, now we're on board, but we don't, they could have misinterpreted. That's what makes me nervous. I mean, the second letter you put in the packet says, well, everybody's happy moving
We've kept all
forward.
that and continue to keep all the documentation, putting everything that we possibly can in writing where they've said, yes, you're good. I've sent that stuff. We've got it in the board packet for our board minutes so that when we're about to undergo our next audit. So we're about to go through the audit for July 1, 2022 through June 30, 2024, and that will probably kick off sometime here in the next 2 months. And rest assured that this stuff will be looked through again, and we'll have all this documentation to say, you've already reviewed it once, here's exactly what you said on it. And again, there are two separate entities also interacting there. You've got State Board of Accounts and you've got the Department of Education. We've continued to keep all the documentation and the conversation that we've had with them, the changes that we've made based on the guidance that they gave in that audit. And we've continued to do that. They've looked it over and they're satisfied with what it is that we've done. We've been very explicit with the way that we put this stuff in the contracts, the certified payrolls, working through the pay apps, uploading that stuff into the Title I App Center as it relates to our ESSER grant, and then also the budget and how that stuff is broken out and what it's gonna be spent on. And so all that documentation is there.
Was there originally too? They gave the blessing originally when we were square with.
But we
were
didn't,
aware-
ha-
we were
with the
square with
change,
commercial
we didn't
services.
have some of the changes in it that we have now, which is where we've explicitly stated in the contracts that this is being spent from federal dollars and will comply with the Davis-Bacon prevailing wage, and that they will be providing certified payrolls, and then that has continued to happen with each pay app. And then we have those timesheets. We've passed on examples of what it is that we're doing with them when those pay apps come in. So they've seen those things. So they've seen the process, they've asked for those things, and that was part of the documentation that I put in the board packet so that you guys also could see. They reached out to us in, I think it was April, if I'm remembering what was in the, I think it was April. It was a couple months after that, was saying, hey, we're doing a check on this for your future stuff because you had this come up in the prior. Now show me that you're doing this right. We sent that off, and you can see there in the board packet that this said this meets and complies with all the things that we want. So at that point, we've taken every necessary step that we have been able to make sure that we're in compliance and that this isn't an issue moving forward. So everything that we're doing right now is completely different than the way that originally went down when that was at the inception of COVID and when the dollars were first dispersed and then they approved the HVAC. It is very frustrating.
Yeah, I know.
But yes, yeah.
Services invoice.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Consideration to approve the Tyler Technologies agreement. Mr. Irwin?
Yeah, so this is for our technology, logistics, and administrative software. This is, talked with a couple of you that have had some questions on it as far as exactly what all it entails. So this is for a cloud-hosted version. Right now, we don't have a cloud-hosted version, so that saves room on servers and all of those other things. I'll let Rick kind of speak to anything on some of that technology side if you have questions about that. But the current version that we have is something that's not cloud hosted. We pay about $10,000 a year for it. This upgrade, along with that change to being cloud hosted, it does some different things as far as having the digital field trip request, improved mapping. It allows for use on an app for her to be on the go when Audrey can use some of those things. It has communication pieces. It can create varied student schedules because oftentimes we have students that in our current system, it won't set up schedules where it says, student A might need to be dropped off here and here on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but on Tuesday, Thursday, they're going to go here. And so that inner working and communication between the transportation department, the building, the front office, and making sure that students are getting to and in the right spots. This will help improve that communication and then also allows us to push out some communication to people when needed as it relates to transportation. And again, there are a number of different pieces in there. Again, it syncs up with our Harmony and some other pieces that are crucial as far as the flow of information and data so that they're speaking to one another. But this is for something that this does not affect anything with contract routes or anything to do with this. This is the logistical and administrative software that we use for all routes, regardless of who they're run by. So this is what that pertains to. It's not just for certain routes. for our corporation. It pertains to all routes in the routing of those students.
Technologies agreement?
A second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I appreciate your explanations that I had a few questions about it as well, and I think the thing that sounds most appealing to me, and I talked with my wife about it, the bit about the different days and making sure kids are dropped off with grandma on the days that they need to be dropped off at grandma's, and that's so, it's important, but it's also very difficult for the building administrators and the secretary, so I really appreciate it.
I appreciate the fact Rick explained it, Matt, about the fact that a third of our buses are contracted buses, but we're providing that for the contracted buses, this routing.
Yeah, we route those routes. We determine those routes.
On our dime to help the contract.
Yeah, what the contract with them is for is to provide the bus and the bus driver and their fueling and all those things. It's not for them to route those kids. We do that. We take.
I would like to, I know, if I hear, all of our current buses have cameras on them, right? The ones we own?
All of our current, yes.
But when we do the contracts, maybe that's something we could talk to the contractor. That way they all have similar situations, but that's gonna be part of negotiation.
Yeah, and that's something separate from what this is. This has
I
nothing to do
understand
with that, but yeah.
Right, okay. All right, thanks.
Yeah. And again, the contract was reviewed by Christine. She was able to review that and had some recommended changes to the language, which they quickly made, so.
Did you want to include the amounts in the minutes?
Yeah, so there's the one-time cost of $27,111 for the switchover and things that are going on. The yearly recurring cost is $21,787. That is offset by about $10,000 that we're already spending each year on this system. So it's not a straight $21,000+ increase to what we're spending each year. There's some offset costs in there, and this is something that's paid for through the operations fund.
We're not breaking a contract with the other company, we're not paying.
This is the same company.
That we're in with already?
Yeah, it's a different version of their software.
You try to talk to them about waiving that startup cost?
They've waived different costs for us in that, and so they have other costs, and they have other costs that they don't apply to us because I think the term they used, Rick, was a legacy user, because we've used them for so long that when new clients come on, they pay some of those other costs. Those fees were waived for us, which amounted to several thousands of dollars, but that's, again, the current proposal of where it stands, yeah.
Discussed it with Rick earlier, and the way I understand it too, as you said, it does save space on our servers, which they're overworked anyway, so it's a really good
Several
benefit.
servers that we need to replace, and so it will reduce hopefully the load and amount of server space that we'll need when it comes to replacement. So that's something that Rick brought to our attention as well as we move from some of these things that are hosted by us to cloud hosted, as well as there's some added features with security as well when it's not something that we host on our servers.
So that will improve the efficiency of the current one also? Okay.
All right, so it was moved and seconded, right? Yeah. Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now, consideration to approve the Green Sign Company quotes. Ms. Sherwin.
Yeah, so this one is something that we've been looking at, talking about, honestly, since I got here. I remember each year we meet with the building principals, we meet with Arnold, we meet regularly with Rick and everybody. One of the things that continues to come up, even with community members, is that we need more signage around campus. One, wayward finding signage that directs people around campus of how to get to certain places, but two, that directs them to parts of the building, whether that's the front of the building there at the elementary school or improving our presence there on 46 so that people can see what's going on in the location of the school as far as finding that front entrance there. And so that's what this quote reflects. I know we had taken a run at this at first, showed you some ideas of what we had with. You guys gave us some direction on what you actually wanted to see a little more closely. We made those changes with Green Sign. I included in the board packet a bunch of visuals of what those signs look like and what they are, as well as the quotes. We did go out and get three competing quotes on this. One of the quotes that we received, I would not call responsible or responsive in the way of we spec'd out specific things that we wanted as far as the material and the make of these signs to make sure that they were quality and they were going to last. And what they provided us was not that. Obviously, it would have been low, but it's an inferior product. So what we have are the two other quotes that go along with this. The other one obviously was higher. The low quote is the one that we're recommending based on the specifications of what it is that we wanted. The total of that quote is $146,989.54. This would be paid for from the GEO bond. It is one of the original priority items that we listed with the GEO bond that we wanted to get tackled. And again, this is for a lighted LED screen sign to be replaced up there on frontage signs for each of the other buildings that do not have a screen, but they're lit. They'll have light up on them so that people can see them. But also the wayward finding signs around campus that directs people of how to get different places. So that's all included in there. That's all in the quote. They are also taking care of getting the permitting done. They've looked into what the requirements are of the town and the city for the sign, making sure that we're staying out of the state right-of-way up front by the road. A lot of the things that maybe isn't first of mind for people when they think about signage, they've thought of all of those things. Rick's worked with them on those things to make sure that what is in there is what we want. And then the next part of this is we'll be finalizing the signs. We have the proposed place for where they're going to be right now. What they're going to do is they'll come around and put up a mock-up, like a small mock-up of what that might be as far as location, so that we can double-check that it is in the right spot where we want before they go finally install it. So we'll do one more round check of all of those things before we give the go-ahead on that. And I think from the time of go-ahead, what they've quoted to us is about 8 weeks from start to finish for it to be done. So with that, Rick, if you want to add anything to this, but you guys hopefully have all the information that you need and have seen that hopefully meets the requirements and the look of what it is that you're wanting around campus. So
I think these signs will be very welcomed by not only visitors to our campus, but also family, grandparents who might be coming to our campus who aren't here on a regular basis and want to know where the ball fields are, where the schools are. This will be very helpful to them. And I just also want to thank Rick, because he's done a lot of homework on this, and I really appreciate all that.
we have done a lot of background too of looking into this company and the quality of their product. They came to us very highly recommended from one of the current architecture firm that we work with on our bond projects, and they've done a lot of work around the state with schools. And like I said, Rick has done a lot of looking behind on some of this too to make sure what it is that we're getting is quality product. So appreciate all that time and effort into looking into that. I know that you guys always want to know that we've looked into the companies that we're spending big dollars with to make sure that it's a worthwhile investment, and so we feel very strongly that it is.
I move to approve the Green Sign Company quote.
A second. I got one quick question. Rick, is that electronic sign, is that all wireless, I assume? And who will be the controller of that? Like the... So we'll keep it up to date. It'll have the temperature, the date, and good luck, so-and-so, okay. All right, and then the other question is, my understanding, Boys and Girls Club's putting up their own new signage out there, correct?
This is, yeah, so this sign
They're-
is not for anything to do with the auxiliary building, but they're putting up a sign that makes sure that people know that that's where the Ellisville
Right.
Boys and Girls Club is operating out of.
And
yeah,
it's
so
going to go over
people
that
will see.
limestone sign that's there right now, correct?
Yeah,
Okay, that's what I had heard.
yeah, that sign is confusing people at times as far
It
as
is.
sometimes the location, especially people that are newer to the community of where the early childhood center is. And so that sign's out there on 46 says that that's the Edgewood Early Childhood Center, which is not the function of that building anymore. That's our auxiliary building, and so they're going to put a sign on that shows that, hey, this is where they're operating out of. They have a small sign there in front of the building, but it's not
Right.
something that people are able to see. We'll eventually get a sign up on the building that just shows people that is our corporation building and it's our auxiliary building. We'll put some, some more simple signage up on the building that aligns with that.
So the sign out by the road, are you guys looking at their mock-ups?
Yeah, it's a pretty
Well, I hope it has
simple-
our school logo on it too somewhere. 'Cause
It doesn't-
It's a partnership.
Yeah, I can ask them, put that
I
on there.
would
The
think
current
I
plan
would
that they
love to see
have, I
that.
don't has it on there, but I think that, us putting a sign up on the actual physical building that shows that it's ours
Okay,
as
I just
well
want to make
is
sure
something
everybody
that's
knows it's a
necessary.
partnership with the Boys and Girls Club.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Irwin. Been on for a while. Now we'll turn to Dr. Sanders and for the approval of the teacher appraisal plan.
Right, thank you. As the board knows, all four of you now have been to a high reliability conference, and I think you have an understanding of why we are becoming an HRS school corporation, how it aligns everything, so that people aren't doing double, triple the work, and that it's all aligns and comes together, is in synced. And so with that comes our teacher appraisal plan, because as we're asking all of our schools, our principals, the teachers, to focus in on the new art and science of teaching, we want to make sure that how people are being evaluated, that it aligns with HRS and aligns with the NASOT. And so it's quite natural for school corporations then who are involved in HRS to eventually revise their teacher appraisal plan. And I was just talking at the fall conference this week, talking to the superintendent of Vigo County, and they are almost at the same spot with us in terms of HRS, and they're working on level 1, and they are also working on revising their teacher appraisal plan. So I want to ask Jennifer Baird to come up and explain a little bit about the changes to that. And I don't know if you're going to speak to this, Jennifer, but we've had quite a bit of involvement from our teachers and administrators looking at, we had a lot of discussion on what they liked and didn't like from the previous plan. We've just recently took, and I'm going to mention this in my report, 38 of our teachers and principals to HRS conference in Birmingham. And so I think all that work has gone into this teacher appraisal plan. So Jennifer?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I don't, you just,
I'm picking up everything, that and nothing else.
well, my hearing aid is out for repair, so.
We got just, I know Dave and I got this in Birmingham, so I appreciate
I promise, yes, and I promise I won't take an hour
that.
tonight,
That's
yes.
Larry, he knows what's going on.
Yeah, and we put the entire plan into the board packet as well, so if anybody wanted to review all of those details.
You guys are all on board with this.
It's a big shift. We're going through a lot of change right now, and when I talk with teachers about all of this, it's, when we're thinking about aligning all of our systems, it's every change that we make impacts something else. And when we think about teacher evaluation, that's one of those pieces that you can't just let sit for a couple of years and say, we'll get to that. Because what was happening with evaluation is that our evaluation was guiding our instruction in the classroom. In other words, whatever teachers were being evaluated on, that was what they thought the expectations were in the classroom. And really we want the exact opposite. We want our instructional framework
to guide our evaluation. And so when we made the shift to NASOT, the new Art and Science of Teaching for Instruction, we had to make sure that evaluation followed that up. So as much as I would have loved to have not touched this and said, we're okay, let's stay status quo for a little bit, I think our teachers would have pushed back and said, this doesn't match, we can't do this. If we're going to invest in our teachers, we need to make sure that we're evaluating them in a way that is measuring their growth. We're pouring into their development. So this is a piece where I just was talking with high school teachers this morning, and I said, it's not perfect, but the problem is I don't know what parts of it aren't perfect until we get into it and we really get a good feel of what works, what doesn't work, what needs to be tweaked. It's just like any other system that we're now looking at, building and rebuilding. And so we're going to go through that process every single year with everything that we do. So I feel good with where we're starting. I think that next spring we're going to bring those teachers together again for multiple meetings after school to get their input and say, what do you like and what do you not like? What has been great for you growing as a teacher, and what has maybe what's something that we can improve upon in this. And they're going to give us great feedback because they don't hold back when we ask for it, and I appreciate that so much. So I do feel really good with bringing this to you in the state that it's in, because I do believe that it's a true evaluation system based in research, but it also represents who we are as Edgewood, and it has pieces of that that are highlighted in terms of mental health, building relationships, innovative instruction. So I feel like it really represents us as a district, and not just maybe a canned piece that we would bring in and try to implement. Do you guys have any questions about it?
I need to go ahead and have a motion.
Yeah.
I would move approval of the teacher appraisal plan.
I'll second.
Is it seconded? No discussion?
Yes. Well, and I appreciate all the help that everybody put into this, and looking at it, at first blush, it didn't look like it had really changed that much. And I know a lot of it is in the NASOT and the HRS protocol. And so I think that's the important thing, that everybody is on the same page there, that everybody knows what is being expected from growing out of our move in the HRS. And I mean, I have every faith that our administrators will be coming at this in the right frame of mind. That I know that there are going to be teachers who are going to be afraid of what this means. And so I just hope that going forward that everybody's clear on what we're trying to accomplish, because
I appreciate you
that's
saying
always
that.
that's always the evaluation is to improve performance. That's what it is.
Yeah,
and I
it's
hope
very
that,
personal for teachers.
it is,
And that's the piece that we
absolutely.
always have to keep in mind, that we take everything that we do with our students very personally, and so we're approaching it in that way. We have a training tomorrow, actually, with our entire administrative team for 3 hours.
Okay.
To make sure that we are rolling this out, not just in all of the schools in the same manner, but the administrators are using the same language, the same procedures, all of that. We want that to be consistent, and that hasn't always been the case with our previous evaluation plans. So we really want to make sure that we're intentional when we approach this, and so we will have a big training. We'll follow up with additional trainings throughout the year. We're rolling out with each of the buildings one at a time, so we're going in, spending 30, 45 minutes with them explaining that, and then we will continue that intentional training with NASOT in November and December, reevaluate in January, see where we are, and then continue to address needs from there. So I feel like our team's doing a really good job of making sure that we're hitting all of these stopping points when we need to, evaluate where we are, and then continue on, and being careful about not taking too many bites out of the elephant too quickly, even though sometimes I feel like our mouths are very, very full right now. But There are still many pieces down the road. This will be years in the making before we see the true impact of everything that we're doing. It's not overnight by any means.
And there were components of the previous plan that, I would describe it as busy work. It took a lot of time for the teachers for different components of the plan, and a lot of time for the administrators. And I think we want to make sure that we allow teachers time to do what they do best, and that's teach. And so a big part of this is to help them in that way, but also we want it to be meaningful. I've always wanted evaluations to be meaningful.
Absolutely.
And because this will be much more personal and growth focused, it will be more meaningful to teachers and principals.
Well, and that was my other, I guess, somewhat of a concern as I was looking through it, is it did look like it could be extremely time-consuming if it wasn't approached
Yeah.
for what it is. I mean, I think if everybody's going into this with their eyes open and trying to get to the right place, then I'm all for it. So.
I'll give you an update next semester how things are going.
The fireworks, the
If we hit our
explosions will happen.
timelines and we feel good about it,
We'll hear
then
the
I'll
explosions in
be able to
April.
come
Yeah,
back
I
and
know.
celebrate. So, yeah.
Well, at High Reliability Schools Conference, we discussed this for quite a while after everybody cleared the room. And I do have some concerns that I expressed about it.
Sure.
However, I also do understand that the current system is not good. And so I'm glad that you're going to continually be evaluating the system to make sure that it's effective. But I do have concerns, but I have concerns about what we're currently doing more. So,
I agree.
so I think it's a step in the right direction, I guess, is a better way to say that. So, is there anything further?
And kind of piggyback off Mr. Kerr about as you explained it to us on that trip, the instructional coaches have their role.
They do.
They're the allies that help improve instruction, but at the end of the day, the administrators are going to be responsible for the
Yes.
end evaluation.
Yes.
And you'll explain that when you do your workshops within everybody, okay?
Absolutely, yes.
That helps clarify what their roles are and so forth, because I don't want I want everybody to kind of work together, even with administrators, because that's the ultimate goal, is to get better.
Yeah.
Right, so.
And the other thing too is sometimes instructional coaches bring a different perspective to the classroom, and so they're able to provide feedback that maybe an administrator, doesn't necessarily see.
Right.
And so it truly is about growth and development. And so we want multiple eyes in those classrooms to be able to provide that feedback to
Right.
teachers. Like, remember teachers saying to me so many times over the years, Jen, I love having you in here. I just wish you could come more often. And I would think,
Right.
yeah, I do too.
I know.
I do too. So we are really hoping that this system that we've created on paper truly plays out the way that we have it planned in reality in the classrooms and in the schools. Until we get it going, my fingers are crossed, everything's crossed, and I feel like we're in good shape, but I'm excited to come back to you, hopefully in the winter, and say, we're okay. Yeah.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Next is consideration to approve the purchase of a golf cart for our student-run business.
So our student-run businesses continue to expand and grow. On a recent Friday, with the sales for the coffee shop during the day and at the football game, one-day sales were over $1,000 for our coffee corral. And so our students are wanting to expand the business and reach out beyond the high school. And there are other reasons why we need a golf cart. One of those would be marketing. And so Jennifer's going to talk to you a little bit about the golf cart.
I didn't think that I would ever be coming to you actually asking for a golf cart. This is not your normal purchase when you're thinking about providing for students. It's just not. We have really done some work at the high school over the last year, redesigning what high school looks like for our kids. And when Dr. Sanders talks about our student-run businesses and our marketing program, ILC designs, what's happening is now outside of the walls of EHS. We actually had students the other day who were designing a particular building for us that we would love to have on our campus at some point in time, and they ended up missing half an hour of their next period because they walked down to a possible location on campus. They were taking pictures. They were starting to kind of draft what that would look like. They walked back. They didn't even realize the bell had rung, and Mrs. Wilson was writing a pass for them, to be able to go. A small example there. Our marketing team is blowing up, and what we're asking our marketing team to do, bless you, is instead of Brittany Tucker being the one who's constantly going over into the other buildings, interviewing teachers, taking pictures, we want our kids doing that. And we want them doing it all day long. And so what's happening is that we're not getting those pictures, we're not getting those interviews, and we're saying to teachers, hey, can you just send that to us? So our kids are missing out on experiences of actually going over and being there in person and being able to do that. They're being handed the content, and that's the last thing we want. We don't want them being handed the content. We want them being out there firsthand getting the content. In addition to that, our Coffee Corral is wanting to expand into our other buildings. They're wanting to have basically serve yourself stations, which will require them to be able to take coffee over on a regular basis, supplies over on a regular basis. So this would be something that Sammy Bliss, our adult, who is the assistant in there overseeing students, she would be taking this on a regular basis across campus instead of us paying her mileage with her own car, either making deliveries to staff members or taking supplies back and forth. She's out and about across our campus all the time. We looked at a lot of different options. I spent time talking with Brad a lot about this. We talked about kids driving their own cars. The problem with that is we can't monitor them. And that scares me. A kid gets into a car and they're vaping on their way over. I have no idea if that's going on. If a student gets into a car and has a wreck while they're doing classroom business on our campus, what does that look like? We've spent a lot of time talking with Jimmy and with our SROs, just asking a lot of these questions that we don't have answers to. And we thought, at one point, I thought about, birds and limes and electric scooters, and I thought, oh, geez, that's a horrible idea. We thought about wagons, that's not the right word, power wagons, whatever they're called, John Deere, all of that. But they don't have an encasement on them. It's not necessarily something that we can close in during the winter time. If Brittany Tucker sent me one more picture of an electric car that was $15,000, we can't do that either. So, like I said, we've been down multiple paths trying to think through how we solve this. We have definitely gone through some checks and balances, of course, with the local police department, with our SROs on site, with our insurance company, making sure Christine she's done her research and has drawn up paperwork for us, ensuring that our students would have to be licensed. They would also have to be trained and certified by our SROs on site, and our SROs would have to sign off on that. In addition to that, their parents would have to sign off acknowledging that this is an additional risk that we would be putting on kids on our campus. I'm trying to think of all the pieces that we've tried our best to think through and dot our I's and cross our T's. It's like anything, we put saws in our ILC over here and we teach kids how to use it. we pray that nothing happens and that mistakes and, accidents don't happen. But unfortunately, when we're working with kids and we're working with 2,800 of them all day long, they fall off our recess equipment and they break their arms and, things happen. And so we're trying to make sure that we think through all of these pieces to keep them safe, but also think about how we expand our programs to be able to give them these opportunities. So it's a balance all the time, but I think we're to that point of coming to you now and asking that we're allowed to expand while taking on some risk with that at the same time, and understanding that risk and trying to make sure that we're mitigating that the best that we possibly can.
Purchase of the golf cart for the student-run business.
A second.
So is this going to be exclusive use for?
Yeah, yeah, this would not, I've had, some people ask, well, does this mean that if a student has an internship over in a first grade classroom, that they can take the golf cart over for their internship 6th and 7th period as a student teacher? No, that's not the purpose of this. This is truly about that small group of students who are working within the capacity of ILC Designs, Coffee Corral, and the marketing team, giving them access, quick access across our campus to be able to perform the jobs that we're asking them to do, and not going outside of that.
Where would it be stored?
Well,
Not in use?
I'm going to try to pull some strings with Arnold and see if we can make some space over here in one of the bays. I haven't approached that question yet, but I have a spot kind of marked out for it. We would just need to move a few things to another bay. It's doable in my eyes, but Arnold may have a better solution for it. So I feel like he always has a great idea when you bring him these things. So I wanted to wait until we got approval before I had another difficult conversation about taking up space in a garage bay.
We're talking about gas or electric?
It would be gas. We did our research on that. We're leery of using electric just because of the cost of replacing the batteries down the road. And this would actually be paid for out of donations from our local banks. It would be paid for by our community who use our debit cards, and every time they use our debit cards, that little bit of money adds up to a whole lot of money. And so IU Credit Union, People's State Bank, they have been incredibly generous to our district and given us those donations, and we feel like this is a great way to be able to use those and pour back into our kids. They don't actually even know that we're talking about this tonight or that this might be coming. So when we pull up with a golf cart for these kids, I'm sure the ideas will start flying around. How do we wrap it? What does it look like? And I would love for it to have, IU Credit Union and their emblems on it, because they're a big part of us being able to do this for our kids. And I think that would be a good way to show them, what that means to us as a school community.
Let the kids go back and think.
And let the
Let
kids
them
go
do
back
that. And they were involved in the research of buying this too, I assume.
Oh, yes,
And
absolutely.
I appreciate you doing this more laid out with the guidelines and working with the SROs. And it seems a little bit more concrete now. And with S-Craft, we know we're good on that.
Yeah,
So
I
thank you
appreciate
for that
that.
extra due diligence.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Since I started teaching, the tyranny of the schedule and the limits of the walls, we're starting to chip away at those.
We
And
are.
that just-
Right,
that
right.
makes
We
me
are, we're
excited.
chipping away at them, and it's exciting
Yeah.
to see, yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what high school should look like.
Yep.
And we're providing more and more of those opportunities all the time.
And you guys can approach Bigby downtown, see if they'll be a sponsor of the golf cart.
Oh,
That'd be like a monopoly then.
yeah, except our rules say that it cannot go off the campus.
That is true, yeah. All right,
With our little GPS monitor on it, we're gonna make sure that doesn't happen.
good, okay,
Unless Jerry takes it to lunch or something like that, so.
all right.
No, not yet.
The amount,
9,800 or 8,900?
89, I can't remember
It's
remember.
$8,945, and then I don't know if, as I'm reading here, it talks about another 900 for the weather enclosure.
Yes, yes, I think that's gonna be important. Just to, it's
Oh,
just
yeah.
another safety slash comfort feature for the kids. In addition to that, just kind of thinking about how the funds will come out, we have about 6,500 in the account right now that can pay for it. The remainder would come out of our RDC STEAM account, which is a great use of those funds as well. Again, thinking about just how we are building ready schools across our district.
So the total would be 9,845.
I appreciate the thoroughness of the looking into it, and I just really hope that it's enforced, that it's just for those
Absolutely.
uses, and everybody else and their brother aren't running around in it.
And SROs will notice to be on board with this too. and
Yes,
kinda wanna see
they
it from the road.
absolutely, yes, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, we don't want this taken away. We will be incredibly cautious with this. This is one of those things that our students have been talking about and asking for a long time. I don't see them taking leniency by any means, or taking, being kids, you know?
Anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right.
Thank you.
Next is consideration to approve the preferred partner agreement with Indiana State University. Dr. Sanders?
Yes, so I was recently informed about this program at Indiana State, that if we agree to promote their academic programs through social media, internal electronic postings to employees, written communications, flyers, which we do anyways when we are asked by a university to share for our employees. We certainly want to do that in order for our employees to be informed about opportunities. And so the Preferred Partners Program, it basically says if we do all those things, then if we have an employee who's taking classes at Indiana State, that they would get 15% discount on their tuition. There's no cost to us. We just agree to share their information.
I move approval of the preferred partnership with Indiana, agreement with Indiana State University.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Seems like a no-brainer.
Yeah. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Consideration to approve the Brawley Education Program.
Yes, this is a really going to be a game changer for our special education department. This program will enable our special education staff to be able to track service minutes, progress towards IEP goals. The staff will be able to collaborate and know what the different providers in special education are doing. In other words, if they have different needs, they have speech, language, if they have physical therapy or whatever, that the different components will be able to use this program to see what everybody else is doing. And it'll help us to make sure that students won't fall through the cracks, so we won't miss certain components of an IEP. It'll make everybody more accountable. Administrators and even Jennifer Anderson, our Director of Special Education, would be able to go in and monitor much easier. And so this would be paid for through Medicaid. The total cost, which includes setup, this is a one-year subscription, and this would just be for EPS and EIS this year, but the total will be $5,194. And like I said, $2,250 of that is the setup. And then after this year, then we'll add the junior high and the high school.
Move approval of the Raleigh Education Program.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions, discussion? Seems like another no-brainer. Sounds like good for the corporation. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Our last action item for this evening is consideration to approve a resolution expressing interest in making purchase of land and property. Dr.
I'm
Sanders?
sure you've noticed down at the corner of Poplar and Temperate Street, a big for sale sign of the corner lot there. Recently, over the time, that the price of that property has gone down, and to a point where we think it might be something we should consider to purchase. The first step in that is for the board to pass a resolution saying you're interested in that property. If you pass the resolution, then we must go out and order 2 appraisals, and we can't pay more than the average of the 2 appraisals. We can pay less, but can't pay more. We are interested, I think, in terms of providing a greater presence of the school corporation on 46, sometimes behind all the trees. We have a beautiful campus up here, but sometimes I don't know if the general public who maybe might not have kids in school might not realize what a great campus we have and the wonderful facilities. And by purchasing land, a school corporation also gives itself options down the road. As a school corporation begins to grow and expand, a school corporation, a school board who has the foresight to look out into the future and be willing to purchase some property, we're seeing the benefit of that now. With the property there, with where the new preschool is going, and we have some other additional farmland that we rent out. As our corporation grows, that just gives us options, and that's what this property would do. It would be, I think, the first step to growing a footprint that's a little bit closer to 46 there.
I move approval for purchase, a resolution to show interest in purchasing of the land and property.
Or second.
Moved second. Any discussion?
I appreciate you bringing this to our attention, and hopefully the appraised value will come out, something that makes some sense for both parties, and we can make this happen.
And as innovative and forward-thinking as this corporation has become, I think people put their thinking caps on of what might be a good presence along there too. So, so that's really good. So, anything further? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now time for the superintendent's report. And it looks like we have about 2 minutes left. So.
Exactly. I can't say hello in 2 minutes, so I'm sorry about that. So, yeah, a lot of great things to report here. As we talked a little bit about this, we took 38 people to Birmingham, Alabama last week for another HRS conference, and it was well attended. It accomplished all of our goals, I believe. As we've been progressing deeper into HRS, we started out sending administrators to these conferences, and the exciting part now was we started taking some teacher leaders like Brandy here, and it was a game changer conference. And every time I go down, I think this is my 4th conference, but every time I walk away with a different aha moment. And mine, if I could share with you, was, so far it's been, I think, I've been paying more attention to the technical side of HRS and what leading indicators are and what lagging indicators are. and the components of the new art and science of teaching. But this time, the session on culture really hit home because a culture, that's every school corporation has a culture. And the culture really needs to buy in and support anything that you do. And I believe that this trip to Birmingham was a huge step in terms of getting that culture to buy into HRS and NASOT. And so it was also something that I enjoyed. It was being with teachers outside the classroom, and you have so many great conversations, professional conversations, and also some silly conversations too. But I felt good that we were able to show our teachers that we valued them, that they're an important piece of this. We're not just going out and getting this new idea and, I'm sorry, teachers, you're going to have to either do it or not. We want them to buy into it. And I feel like our teachers walked away feeling valued. I got some really nice thank yous and emails, which made me feel good that they felt good. Also, I just want to recognize that every once in a while I like to do this and recognize some people who are making a positive difference. And tonight I'd just like to recognize all those folks who help out with dollars for scholars and the 5K race that they do. They raised over $23,000 that goes specifically towards Edgewood scholarships. And so that takes a lot of time and effort to run a race like that, and just wanted to thank them. And also Vicky Coffey, if you saw the online Herald Times today, there was a great article about our nutrition services program and how hard and creatively that they have worked to put ourselves in a position where we could provide free breakfast and lunch to our elementary students, and this is a pilot year for that. We hope it goes well, and that in the future we can expand that to junior high and high school. But Vicki works very hard at these initiatives and to make sure our students are being healthy, and so I wanted to thank her. As far as community involvement, we had a great presence in the Monroe County Fall Festival. The opening ceremony, as usual, included our Edgewood choirs and one of our Edgewood music teachers leading the national anthem. And it was just very moving to hear everybody singing as a community. We had our booth down there, our band was down there. And so we had a great presence during the Fall Festival, and it's so nice to be able to talk to our community about what our amazing things our students are doing. And of course, if you were watching the parade, you saw quite a bit of Edgewood students and staff being represented in the parade, and it just always makes me feel very proud. Tomorrow night, the Bloomington Area Chamber of Commerce will hold their awards dinner, and so we will be honoring Educator of the Year Award recipient Lindsay Owen, who is the EPS kindergarten teacher. And so we want to congratulate Lindsay on that. We did get our Secured School Safety Grant Award this year, and it is down $20,000. So instead of the 99, almost 100,000 that we get, we received $80,627, and that's simply because there are so many school corporations applying for these grants. They pretty much told you right at the beginning, not everybody's going to get all that they asked for, which made me nervous, but quite honestly, I was glad that we got 80. I felt like that was very helpful, and that we used that grant to help fund two of our school resource officers. the school corporation takes care of the rest. And then, of course, the town of Ellettsville provides the equipment, the police car and training and benefits. And so it's a great partnership between the Ellettsville Police Department and the town and RBB School Corporation. So I'm always glad to get that email that we got that grant. The High Reliability Conference, I mentioned already, and I know, I got a little confused, didn't I? I talked about that first because I was so excited about it, but we had a great Edgewood showcase, and I wanted to brag on that. And then Matt and I have been talking about, and I think we've talked with some of the board members about doing another demographic study. And so I reached out to Dr. Brad Balch at Indiana State. He's the dean of the By School of Education, and asked him to give us some recommendations for quality people who can do really accurate demographic studies, and he gave me a few names, and I reached out to some of the superintendents, and the one that came back the most recommended was McGibbon Demographic Research. He does demographic studies for several school corporations throughout Indiana. He does it all over the country, but Indiana is his main area. He's from this area. He doesn't live here now, but he grew up in this area, so he's very familiar with Monroe County. But he would provide us with population estimates for the next 10 years, enrollment forecasts from the 2025-26 school year to throughout the 2034-35 school year. He would describe his methodology, assumption, historical patterns. He'd provide tables and graphs which would explain the study results, and he would make a presentation to the school board. I have that I will share with you guys if you're interested, but I do have a sample study that he has done. And you could either take a look at it afterwards, or if you want me to scan it and email it to you, I could do that, whatever you'd prefer. The cost is $6,050, which includes the presentation to the board. And what Matt and I liked about this is that he could have this to us fairly quickly. And so Matt, I don't know if you want to add anything to that. Matt was part of the conversations with all this.
We spent a lot of time talking to him when we met in person with him, just kind of talking about how he goes about doing this and what his approach is and what all goes into that. He's very experienced at this. And like I said, one of the things that is also comes highly recommended not only from a university, but from other superintendents and other schools that have good experiences in relation to what we paid for our last one. This is less than half. The main thing is we need to continue to inundate ourselves with good information so that we can make good decisions. And so this is something that allows us to continue to bring in updated, good information as we make decisions, whether it relates to facilities, staffing, any of those things, forecasting, financials, all of those items that are really important to the success of the school corporation. And so this falls in line with continuing to bring in that good information so that we are well-informed and can make well-rounded decisions.
Chris Hemsel, who's the superintendent at Vigo County Schools. Brad, I don't know if you remembered, but we ate lunch with him earlier this week. He said that his name's Jerry McGibbon, that Jerry McGibbon is the best he's ever worked with as far as demographic study. Now, if you as a board decide that this is not something you want to do, we've not signed anything. This is just, I really want to inform you that we would like to move forward with this. But if you say, let me know, hey, we don't think we should, then we won't. So.
This is different than the last
Yes.
This is not the same group, no. And there's no, there's,
I didn't think the last one 5 years ago was of any use, but it may have been the guy's presentation and what he did. It was nothing earth-shattering, but I like the fact that this is half the price. That makes sense. So it's-
And we asked him some questions about, we shared with him how much Ellisville is changing and how much growth, and it didn't faze him at all. He said, we'll be ready, we'll factor all that in there.
I don't know what the process is, but the
done that
previous person
before,
was just
yeah.
looking up numbers, I think, the previous person. Hopefully they'll get out and talk to people that are the movers and shakers
Right.
in town
Yeah.
for us.
Disappointed with the last one, because, I'd ask about some unknowns, and so if it was unknown, they just didn't consider it.
Right.
And so there's a lot of unknowns when you come to this, and I think that they need to be considered for it to be a helpful document, so I appreciate that. So with that, I'd like to make a motion that we approve an agreement with McKibben Demographic Research LLC for the cost of $6,050 for the demographic study, pending approval of council of any agreement that would be signed.
I'll second.
I did check with him, he said that he has no formal agreement with terms and conditions, so I can send that over to Christine prior to signing off that, yes, we're gonna do it, but I checked on that, because originally we thought that we might put it on this board packet, but he said he has no agreement in some of those things, so we can rerun through that and just kind of let you look over what he has to see if it requires anything else too.
He basically provided us with a proposal of what he would do, and so it outlines it all in the proposal. And so that's why we did not bring it to you for approval, because we didn't have an agreement.
You okay with the motion?
Yes, well, I just want to make sure you
Okay.
knew we didn't have an actual agreement.
Yes. Yeah, I understood we didn't have that, that's why
Okay,
I added that extra language.
okay, all right.
So,
And you're happy with the previous work that you looked at that he did? You saw
Yeah,
samples.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
need to see it, but
Yep.
if you're good, let's do it.
okay.
Well, that's my vote.
Anything else?
Sorry.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Let's move forward. Okay, do you have anything else?
No, thank you.
Went over 12 minutes, we'll deduct that from next time. Okay, now we have RBVEA comments, and we have Brandy Abel with us this evening.
Good evening. Doug has got a leadership meeting, so we are dividing and conquering tonight. But I wanted to start with a personal note. I'm just so happy that Vicki and Tim Intrigan are staying through the rest of the year. So to have closure, especially with Miss Vicki, we love her at EPS. Doug and I were 2 of the 38 that went to Birmingham, and I definitely think the consensus of the whole group was we wish everyone could have heard those inspiring presentations. Just a lot of excitement. I think just knowing that just helping our staff see this shift, that it's not anything additional to our plate, it's just refining. That was kind of a key word, refining our systems and programs, seeing what's working, having that common language and expectations across the corporation. But the other bigger piece, going back to what Dr. Sanders and even Brittany Straw said about the culture, there was a huge piece about wellness, and that we have to make sure our adults are being taken care of, because if they're not being taken care of, we can't take care of those kiddos. So we're bringing back a lot of pieces to hopefully incorporate into our schools. I want to thank Jen and her team and everyone for the teacher appraisal plan. Doug and I and many of us were in those initial planning stages. We got to hear the plan, and I think, again, a consensus, we're excited for the shift, that the work is not going to be busy, it's going to be meaningful. With that said, there is a due date Friday, and I have not yet submitted my things, so I've got some work to do over the next couple of days to start that process. In my defense, we were given work time last Wednesday when we were driving home, so we have started bargaining, and again, every time I meet with Mr. Irwin and Dr. Sanders, I just appreciate the collaboration and communication with them. They're just great to work with. So thank you. And yeah, looking forward to, this is my first year on that team, so I'm just watching and learning. And that's about it. And just, pardon?
How many people went to Birmingham?
38.
38,
So
fantastic.
it's a nice mixture of
Yeah.
everyone,
Good.
everyone. It was
Yeah.
great. And yeah, it was such a fun time. Very just, yeah, everybody
Good.
who has asked me, I've just said it was a great event, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move to board member comments, and I'll start with Mr. DeMoss.
Well, I'm going to edit some of the things that I was going to say because it is getting late. But I have to say congratulations to Coach Tucker and the girls soccer team because they've gotten off to an outstanding start and they beat Bloomington North for the first time ever, so that's exciting. Showcase was great. Dollars for Scholars. Carol Langry deserves special mention. That was terrific. The Fall Festival, of course. The HRS conference, I was thrilled to hear your comments and other people I've talked to, and it just confirms what I was thinking we were getting out of it. I'm excited as we're moving forward. Got to go with Dr. Sanders and Mr. Tucker to the IASB Fall Conference, got some good information there, and you beat me to the punch on Vicki and Tim because I'm thrilled that they're staying through the end of the year. And just seeing the construction progress, it's exciting, exciting times. So, but I'll stop there.
Mr. Tucker.
Thanks for everyone. I know it's a long night, talking much short. And Jim may ask a lot of questions before the meeting, so we're good. I asked a lot. So I do want to make a point that the redevelopment commission, I was at the Monroe County meeting last week, and they're going to give us our first check of $146,000 after Dr. Sanders does his presentation in October. So they approved it at the September meeting. And then they're also going to give us our second amount of $123 in February 2020. So that's the $275 that Mr. Kerr helped negotiate back in the day as the pass-through money on the commercial TIF district out that way. So thanks to all the work you guys did on that. And piggyback what Ms. Abel said, that was a great trip. There's so many different takeaways I got from that. And I love listening to teachers talking jibber jabber on the way down and so forth. So I think it really helped. The night I was with the primary ladies, I think you were there. The primaries, it's just like I was cross-eyed listening to all you guys jabber about stuff, but it's cool. So continue to grow the culture, and it's the whole corporation. So thank you.
Well, my information on the showcase was fantastic. Jason and Alec and Sam told me, but I was out of town on a honeymoon that week, so I couldn't make it. But we remind everybody about Peden Farms tomorrow and Friday. Angie would always thank everybody for the donations. I just want to thank again Superintendent Sanders and Matt for all you do for us and the things you bring to us, and you all being here, the administrators being here are wonderful, and I appreciate you too, so helping out with it. So, thank you, sir.
Well, I just echo everybody else's, and I really want to thank Katz tonight. I mean, it's a long meeting, and we're kind of excited about things that are going on, but you staying through here, getting early, setting up, and tearing down. And I just thank everybody for coming, and so we can get them on the road. This meeting's adjourned. Thank you.